Malcolm Jamal Warner died. And I'm going to be the first to say that it was a conspiracy. So what do you mean, King? I'm telling you. They say he was he was diving, snorkeling, whatever, right? He got swam up in a current. But that's easy to say. And it's also easier to make it look like an accident. We all know William Cosby has, intentionally told Big Oil that they will not be able to have the rights to his land where there is a substantial amount of oil reserves under. William Cosby could be a billionaire if he wanted, and currently a few $100 million. He said that's enough for me. Now, one thing he is lacking, old Bill, is a son. Years ago, his one and only son was transitioned by the hands of, some say mafia, some say government, but all say intentional, no accident. So the biological son of William Cosby was terminated the first time that he wanted to buy a NBC, ABC, something like that, right? They wanted to put him in his place, show him they wasn't playing games. He again wanted to buy a network, but again, they wanted to put him in his place. That place was jail. That place was fraudulent. He beat all those charges. Can't get his time back, can't get the Netflix back, but we hold off on that. I'm speaking of the Netflix special that he made, but was never, came forward and presented to the public, which I would watch it, no problem. And since he's been found innocent and released on all charges, they should release it as well. But I digress, because a great man has passed today. Malcolm Jamal Warner. He was a household name. All three of them motherfuckers, right? We know that he was, for all intents and purposes, the son of Cosby. We know that he kept an image clean because of Cosby. Because of his legacy, we've seen him go on to be doctors, musicians, everything that a Cosby kid would be. The son of Cosby, as documented in the films, would be, taken after his sitcom dad, where he showcased his love for music, his love of his career. And you saw in each of his endeavors, Malcolm Jamal Warner was always positive, was always entrepreneurial, intelligent, respectable, and not a blemish on his reputation, on his name, on his image. But we lost him. And it's always sad to see the kids go before the parents. But Why, though? Why was this something that was done so often now ended in tragedy? Why was he in a position that he was alone? It's rare, but anytime something happens to one of the greats, to one of the handpicked, the chosen, the baton carriers, it's always alone. There was nobody with Nipsey. We see his first son. There was nobody with him. Malcolm Jamal Warner. There was nobody with him. The unblemished, respectable gentleman definitely played his part. But I definitely believe he was going to now flip the lens. And what do I mean by that? What I mean is that he was going to be behind the camera instead of being in front of it. Over was the days of him and the betrayal, not betrayal, betrayal, of, imaging and character development, things of that nature. What he was going to move to next was going to be producing, executive producing. Now, this is Malcolm Jamal Warner we're talking about. We're talking about someone who has taken his cues directly from Cosby. Cosby was the guy who said, let me bring in a group of psychologists so that we can make sure we don't have any negative stereotypes, any challenging or misleading representation, and everything be positive, uplifting, and upstanding for the community. Now, as the descendant of that, and continuing the legacy of the great Cosby, we would only assume that his message, his imagery, his directorial debuts and stamped approval, greenlit executive producing roles would be something that would share in the same ilk as his predecessor. There is a hole, a void, if you will, for melanated boys to men. There is no longer a sense of let's give them imagery, let's give them let's cater to them, if you will. Let us create stories for those in that demographic, right? So you have the majority of the stories come out about melanated girls going into womanhood or womanhood, and melanated women. Okay, that's good, but there's a void, and I believe this void is so that the gender war will continue, the gender fluidity will continue, the pandering would be acceptable, the nuclear family would be separated continuously, because the maturation, boy to man, the progress, the process, the catalyst, if you will, to move through boyhood to manhood, the rites of passage, as it's always been called. There's no description on what that should be, what that is, and how that's defined in the community. But I do believe that Brother Malcolm Jamal Warner was going to tackle this wholeheartedly. I believe that he had intentions to reach out to the youth, to showcase what needed to be showcased, to examine, to exhibit, to shine a light on the disparate it's a lot, right? It's a lot, because going from a boy to a man, what is that? That's responsibility, right? And just going from childhood to adulthood, responsibility is there, right? Now, there are going to be assigned gender roles to a man, right? By women. Now, women, they could, remove these gender roles at will, but they still want you to wear them, right? Not saying anything is wrong with you wearing them. I'm just saying that everybody's going to see you as this, right? So responsibility is one thing. Now you have to do X, Y, Z, or you're not credible. You're not part of the numbers, right? So you're looking to have a family. You're not going to be looked at unless you do have these things, unless you know what I mean? So you definitely have to have some resources to take care of yourself, XYZ, right? But then there are internal moral things that you have to have. You have to, all these things that aren't talked about. Because a lot of times you can go from 0 to a million based off talent, determination, and discipline. Great, that's great. But talent, determination, and discipline doesn't really have a place for the outside world, the influences, the child rearing, the support system. You know what I mean? Like, you have these things internally. You know, you might have picked up discipline, you might have picked up determination, you were born with talent, but you can't teach discipline. You can talk about it, you can talk about techniques. People have to internalize that. Determination, you have to internalize that, you know. So what I'm saying is everybody's different. Some things come easier to some people, but a streamline of things have to be accepted for all men. You know what I mean? The soldier, you got to be a soldier for your family. You know what I mean? You got to be able to down the front line. This is a mandatory thing. You have to be able to protect, right? And then protection at immediate conflict, but then you also have to have protection at the non-immediate threat, the subversive threat, the elusive threat. You know what I mean? So what's that look like? Television? You know, social media. So sometimes you have to rein in the imagery, the output, or the input, so that you can keep that circle small and keep the information in it positive as well as helpful. There's not much of that for the melanated boys or the melanated young men. But I believe some people are looking to change that narrative, up that ante, and really be prolific. And I can't wait for it. But the job that Malcolm Jamal Warner has done with his time on this planet was amazing. You know, he allowed himself to be a vessel for millions of melanated boys and men. You know, there's generations that have watched him, watched the conversations him and his sitcom dad had in front of the camera, watched his development into adulthood, watched him become a bar owner and you know, entrepreneur, watched him you know, have a predominant role in legal proceedings, and also in medical practitioner. So his career choices, they definitely They definitely was because he was a Cosby son. Him picking it, and then also him being offered it, was in direct relationship to being a Cosby son. Because it's believable. You know what? I seen this kid. I remember when he went down the wrong way, but he changed his life around. And now, blah, 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 XYZ. He wasn't the greatest kid, but you know what? He had a dyslexia. And then he went to NYU, and he could have become anything, right? And he did. And he showed us that. And it's amazing. And it's tragic that we lost him. So, Malcolm Jamal Warner, rest in paradise. Let me know your comments on the conspiracy in which they've taken out another one of Cosby kids. Stay tuned.